Hello, 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 hello. Hey, listen, I love that you watch from YouTube because I gotta figure it out. I promise you, at some point, um, it's definitely gotta tell me everybody comments because yours the only one that shows because you comment on YouTube and YouTube comments show whether I'm doing it from my desktop or even if I'm doing mobile streaming like I do on Thursday. You know, Thursdays I do that from my phone, which is probably part of the reason we have so many issues because I spent so much time working out all the issues we had with the lives. Oh, and we had a ton of them anyway. So, um, we're in green today. This is actually Happy Tuesday, and so tonight is gonna be a normal show. I mean, well, it's just gonna be me jibber jabbing, unless somebody feels lucky and wants to click that link and join the live, then you and I can talk together. But if not, people in their courage. I'll remind if we get some more viewers or when we do. I know I get a lot of my views after the fact. Hey, love bug. You know that, yeah. I know you ain't joining the live. Well, I'm in. Yeah, I swear today is gonna be a short show. And short meaning less than an hour, but every time I think that, um, it winds up being a little more than an hour. So I get a little verbose, or long-winded. But again, like I said, if anybody feeling lucky, if you don't want to just hear me talk, you want to be a part of the conversation, you can click the link, and I might let you join the live. So today is interesting. It is a happy Tuesday. I remember last week I told everybody I was starting a new consulting position, and I started that this week. And it's had me. It's interesting. It had me processing a lot of different things. I'm enjoying it. Uh, I promise you, I've probably never worked for a company this large. They have more employees in India than they have in America. And the other interesting thing about it, it was started by some Tuskegee Airmen. So um, you really don't think that companies that started by Tuskegee Airmen at that time were growing something as large as a international company. You know what I mean? So it's huge, but I love it. And having it right now, it gave me to appreciate why maybe I haven't had so many people reading. I mean, coming on to the live to have the live readings, and yeah, it's crazy, right? It's some other crazy stuff with that job, so I'm gonna talk about it a little bit. Oh God, it is one thing about it I don't like, but it it allows me to appreciate it. So the one thing about it I don't like though is I do got to get my hotel rooms first. I mean, they do reimbursement, like they pay for everything else up front except your hotel room, which is interesting. And they were very serious about enjoy the downtime. You know what I mean? So they made it clear that most of my busy time will be when I'm traveling. But transitioning to this job, it helped me to see why my lives have been taking on different formats. One, I wanted them to grow organically. I had intentions, but they always say you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And you've been with me from the beginning, then it's definitely grown in various different ways and not the way I saw it. But one thing that allowed me to appreciate the lull in the live readings is the live readings do require a lot of my emotional energy and attention, right? And in this transition and figuring out a little clarity for myself, I probably really needed a little bit more of that for me. You know what I mean? So just talking to y'all about what's going on and doing readings. I've done a couple of readings and stuff like that, but even that slowed down. But it's definitely picking up again. So we're gonna get back to the action pretty soon. I do like the addition of the videos. You know what I mean? I like the way it's growing. So a couple of things I want to talk about tonight is, like I said, it's part of this transition. This transition has been interesting. And I told you on this healing process, I feel like I'm in the relationship phase and understanding how I interact in relationships and what I want from relationships. But the thing about that, it's kind of like a loop like this. It's like a Venn diagram. There we go. So there's some little overlap because career is relationship too. Although I'm not as focused on my career. A couple of things came up this week for me, and it was one was this idea of wanting your mate to accept you for who you are. And another one, I had a couple of conversations with friends and they brought a couple of things to my mind. And I told you with this job, so I'm going to start with this idea of accept you for who you are. I remember in my life, there was a time where I would be one of those people that would profess that as a want in one of my relationships. Hey, whoa, we got a new friend. Let me find out you want to join, Yvette. Go ahead and let me read your energy too. Don't distract me. I'll put a little extra energy in if you want to jump on. But nah, for real, at some point, you know what I mean? You ain't got to get on live. Most of the people don't want to mess with live anyway. But I'll definitely, we got, I don't know what it's about, 5, 6, 7 years now we've been connected. So I would definitely love to read your energy. But a little more about this idea. Like I said, I used to be one of the people that would profess that when I find myself in a relationship, I want someone that can accept me for who I am. And in theory, that is a noble idea. You know what I mean? And I know, coming from this education background, there's a huge difference between theory and practice. We teach a whole bunch of theory, but some of that stuff don't work because it's just someone's idea. And you got to figure out something different in practice. So when it comes to that accept me for who I am, that is just a theory. That's not a law. And one thing that on this healing path, I've come to realize about that idea is it's very unfair. It's noble in thought, but it's unfair to ask someone to accept you for who you are. And one of the reasons is a lot of us don't even know who we are. We have some ideas, and a lot of parts of us who we think we are shrouded in guards and roadblocks and how we protect ourselves and defense mechanisms. So a lot of things that we know about ourselves can be rooted in some very not good things, unsavory for lack of better words. So it winds up being an unfair expectation. Another reason how it winds up being an unfair expectation, because this idea of who I am as a man is really based on me as a single individual. So as a single individual, I may call myself considerate, and in being considerate, I'll consider other people. But ultimately, every decision I make, every thought I do, everything about me is what I would do as a single person. But now if I find myself in a relationship, I do have to adjust. There are differences between single and in a relationship. And if you still want to have someone accept the single you, then that's going to be very difficult for a relationship because you have to make adjustments. All your decisions that you made were made on you alone, but now you have another person or other people in your life where every decision that you make will affect them, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And you have to think that. And then you have to start considering their wants and their likes and things of that nature. And I don't know if this makes much sense, but I feel like a better place for me, and hopefully it resonates with some of you all, a better place for me when it comes to this idea of accept me for who I am and thinking about my relationship self. I would probably, I want to be in a situation where I can maintain pieces of myself, parts of who I am as an individual, although I can't remain an individual. And I want to be accepted and respected for those parts of me as an individual. And while doing that, I still want to be able to do that in a mind frame of consideration for the woman I may be with, and still providing a space, a safe space for her to feel comfortable. You know what I mean? So one way I can say something like that is how this might look in action. And some people may say accept you the way it is, but what winds up happening is, so for example, when I go through struggles and trials and tribulations and stuff like that, one of my defense mechanisms, as we talked about last week, is to go off to myself, spend time to myself. I just put myself in a silo, and I just deal with my issue until I focus on the task at hand until that task is complete, right? And that is okay as an individual. But, and that is a piece of who I am. But if I'm in a relationship with someone, I really can't handle situations like that because as I'm off to myself, I'm giving an impression to someone that I care about. And they may see it as I'm not valuing them, or I may feel them alone. And I can express who I am as much as I want to. But if I behave like that, my behavior is inconsiderate to them. You know what I mean? So although I may say it's unfair, that idea does have instances where it's fair. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is, if it's only fair 10% of the time, 90% of the time it's unfair. And you will still have to say that that's an unfair idea. And it's one that I held for a long, long, long time. And it's one that I don't plan to carry on any longer. And also earlier this week, and I've told everybody before that the healing process is kind of like a community event. It's communal in the sense that you're going to need other people's perspective on who you are and how you may need to grow. So I asked a friend, um, if you were to date me, what is something in me? What is something that I lack that you would want in a person that you date? Right. And they told me, I'm laughing because it's funny. Perspectives, man, they just like opinions, boy. Everybody got one. And some of them are valid. You definitely got to eat the meat and spit out the bones. So they told me the two things that I would need more of is patience and gentleness. And I find that ironic. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, I'm a patient person. And in my mind, I'm gentle. And in most people's minds, I am patient and I'm gentle. To be able to work with the population that I work with, I have to be patient. I have to be gentle. But I definitely understood that because this is someone that has known me for years and they have a perspective of me that I need to think a little bit more about. And also previously in my life, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, one thing that has kind of stuck with me is that people say that I can be hard on women in a relationship, and that was very difficult for me to understand. You know what I mean? So, but one thing as I thought more about the patience, because like I said, I have patience. And I thought into this idea of patience and what I see some people think patience is. And patience sometimes to some people is what I may see is allowing too much to happen. You know what I mean? And as me, I'm not aggressive in the sense that I don't give opportunities and stuff like that, but I can be aggressive after you cross a certain line. You know what I mean? But I never approach situations like rah 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 rah. Funny, funny, funny. It's not, and it's funny because the first time I tried to go out with this person, they actually talked trash about me and put me on the defense where I had to talk trash about them to get them to understand fairness. Personal characteristics and professional characteristics can be different. They can be. And the thing about them is, though, a lot of people think that we are good at drawing that boundary between them, but it's so much overlap. For example, I was, I've been in a lot of trainings and everything, and or conferences or whatever, and there was this guy here it was a guy there who was teaching this program about how to separate the professional and the personal in your home life, right? And he was selling this idea to CEOs of companies, right? And he said as he goes around, and it's a great idea. Everybody in there, I mean, the way he talks about it, he's like, okay, that sounds good. Like, I might have that problem. So he said, but he goes around and he talks to CEOs, and as a CEO, they all like, I'm good. I don't need that, right? So he said the way that he was able to get CEOs was through the wives. He'd tell the wives about it, and the wives experience that overlap of professional and personal, and they know they have issues. They come home, they be bossy. They come home, they don't ask anymore. They just used to telling. There are a whole lot of qualities that wind up blurring over. And that's what winds up happening. And if we're not aware of that, we actually do think, if we put in our mind that I'm very good at drawing that boundary between my professional and my personal, then we think that we are good. But we may be terrible at that. And a lot of times people think that that is making friends at work. You know what I mean? But making friends at work is the least of it. You know what I mean? So like my homeboy told me when I first started teaching in the classroom, I was riding with my homeboy and I thought I was just talking to him. And this fool said, hey, I'm not one of them kids in your class. You're not going to keep bossing me around. So that's why I started to learn. I'm like, okay, I'm just so used to telling people what to do. I just tell people what to do. I don't mean no harm. I'm just giving you directions, man. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what to do with them leadership qualities. But the thing that I've also learned about this idea of patience is, and it's a complex one in a sense, because now I understand how people wind up being with people who are emotionally unavailable. The thing about that emotionally unavailable and that not caring, sometimes it actually can look like patience. If I'm not offended by anything you're doing, or none of that bothers me, or I'm not even expressing any of that, people will think you are being patient, but you're not. You're not being patient at all. So I have to be careful with this idea of patience because a lot of people, I'm an emotional and I can be emotionally expressive. And depending on where people are in their life, if they can't do that, if they're not emotionally expressive and they want to be, they wind up resenting you or having some sort of negative feelings for you having the ability to be able to speak up for yourself or draw boundaries. And I told you, as much as I'm learning to draw boundaries, that's more relationship wise. Because in life, if anybody knows me in life and not dating, y'all know for a fact I draw them boundaries. And that was a wild thing because I really had to think about it. And when I review my life, although I appreciate it because her saying patience is one thing that I need, I I think that's something I worked on. So that's some bones that I'll wind up spitting out. But I will keep the idea because I think there's something that she's trying to get to. She just used the wrong word. And then with that gentleness, what I've learned a lot of times, it's the same thing as patience. When you accept a lot of negative behavior, sometimes people think you're a gentle person. You know what I mean? Like they will think because, or even if you don't accept a lot of negative behavior, you just don't, you're not as vocal, you don't do a lot of those things, people would think that you're a gentle person. And you can be the roughest person in the world. You're just not talking. You know what I mean? You're not communicating that roughness and that rudeness. So people don't really have the idea. So one thing I know about people, if they don't know, if there's holes in it, they will fill in those holes with anything. And it could be totally made up, which is crazy. Thank you. It did make a little sense. I try to make sense occasionally. You know, like I said, I be wanting to talk to y'all and I be wanting to show y'all other people, but sometimes I just got to talk about the things that I'm realizing as it comes through life, right? And the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was appreciate the chaos. And this was funny because for the last 2 weeks or something like that, I've been just having this bout between anger and wanting to cry and happy. I just been a ball of emotions and don't know what to do, right? So now I started this job. I'm going through the onboarding process for a large company, like I said. And the thing about onboarding processes is they are always chaotic. And I remember there was a point in time where I didn't like onboarding because it was chaotic. It always seemed like people didn't have their stuff together. And even if they had it together, they seemed like, well, you know, you on one side, you being onboarded. So you can always think about the ways that it's been it's chaotic or how they could have did it better. Let me tell you something. The last time I was onboarded to any position was the first job I got after my master's program in 2012. That was the last time I was onboarded. And I have had way too many jobs since then to not have been onboarded. The thing about them is I have been onboarding myself. I've been in the position to have to onboard myself and write the policies for how I'm supposed to be onboarded and anybody else after me. Because most of the time, the organizations I took over or I wound up being the leader in, last time they looked at their policies and, and procedures was, as a matter of fact, the last one I just left, I think it was 2016. When was it, when was it, Love Bug? When's the last time y'all looked well, they looked at their policies and procedures? It might have been 26. No, I feel like it was longer. And the job before that, it was like 2009. And these are jobs I had in the 2020s. So it was crazy. So now that I'm going through the onboarding process and I'm not responsible, 2017, there she go. I knew she wasn't going to let me down. It's been 2017 since they last looked at the policies. And these are jobs that I had. And these are places that you're supposed to review them every year, all types of stuff. And so now I'm going through the onboarding process. And when I had to think, I was thinking about why am I so happy? One reason I'm happy is I'm loving the onboarding process and the chaos of it because, man, I don't have to work. All I got to do is go through the process. And that made me start to think. And this is where my career has looped back in. one of the reasons I'm so happy right now, and this is funny. I mean, it's emotional. When I thought about it, it almost it's a lot to take in. So one of the other reasons why I'm so happy is because 2012, after I got my master's program, I stepped into leadership. And ever since I stepped into leadership up to Monday, I'm talking about yesterday, I have been responsible for hundreds to thousands of people's lives. The decisions that I make or don't make can affect people for years, can affect communities for years. I've ran programs that's $10 million programs. So if I don't get that money back, or if I don't get that, YouTube talking, I can't see what you say now. I'm glad YouTube talking because now I can't see what they say. I'm gonna move this over. I hope they're not saying nothing crazy because YouTube be wild. But I have been responsible. Hello, thanks to the live. We glad to have you. Just talking about a few things on this healing process if you unfamiliar. But as I was saying, I've been responsible for thousands of people's lives. And when it came to COVID time, not only is it a not only is it just like kind of affect their life, but COVID made it actually life or death decisions. So when it came down to people arguing over the science, whether this right, whether that's right, the shot and all that, I thought I had opinions about them, right? I had thoughts and ideas, very strong ones. But you know what I realized? It didn't matter because I had lives depending on me. And what if I make a decision based on based on my theory, which ain't no law, which may not be true, and I'm wrong, and someone's child wound up dying. You know what I mean? That would have been the worst thing that could have happened to me. And that does happen to programs in my city. I know stories about not reporting and things like that. And when you think about that, that means every single day of my life, I was responsible for hundreds of thousands of people. And that is a burden. It is a weight. And what winds up happening is it puts you in this. This is probably one of the reasons why teachers don't want to be teachers no more. It puts you in this space where the love will never balance out the sacrifice. So if I'm leading 100 women, I change 100 women's lives, but only maybe 3 or 4 of them might actually admit that or may actually give me my flowers, right? While I'm there. A lot of times it winds up I'm leaving, I'm not their supervisor anymore, and they were like, you was the best I ever had. You know what I mean? And that's a wild balance. And I'm working with thousands of families. You might get 1 or 2 of them families that actually appreciate what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're dealing with people you gotta have patience and gentleness with. You know what I mean? And it was a crazy, crazy thing. And then it made sense to me on why Barry Bonds gave me one of my favorite quotes. And he said, to be number one, you have to have some broad shoulders. And it's the truth because a lot of people want to be leaders, but you don't know the pressure, you don't know the burden until 1,000 people are looking at you and hoping that you make the right decision. And you do your best. And you make some mistakes, but you do your best. You carry that burden and you try not to make the biggest mistakes. You know what I mean? And then in realizing how the love doesn't necessarily balance out the sacrifice, it brought a little bit of clarity to me. So as one of the things, so like when my friend told me I need a little more patience and I need a little more gentleness, I understood what she was saying. She just used different words than what my family and friends were saying. My homeboys used to tell me I'd be lacking the tolerance, right? And and I could be a little rough around the edges or whatever. And what I realized is because I was putting so much emotion into my career that when it came to my relationships, I would, whether consciously or unconsciously, I would expect my mate to help balance that out. And it was funny because I told one of my friends this realization on this burden because what I realized is that's exactly how I was hard on women or hard on relationships. When people tell me I can be hard, I can never understand because my hardness, what they were saying were expectations, were boundaries, blah, and stuff like that. Everybody has expectations and boundaries. You know what I mean? So it wasn't hard, but this emotional weight that I put on them that wasn't even necessarily theirs, it was just because of my career, was definitely an unfair expectation. And it's funny because when I told one of my friends that, you know, one of they said, I told them that the love doesn't sacrifice, I mean, doesn't balance out the sacrifice. The advice they gave me was, well, the right kind of love can. And I thought the same thing. But it's just like that idea of accept you for who you are. It might be unfair. I'm giving out energy to thousands of people. It is definitely unfair for me to expect one person to balance that out. So one of the things why I'm so happy is it I don't have that burden no more. And it even made, I mean, I was like, listen, this is the greatest time of my life because the only person I got to worry about right now is just me. Not hundreds, not thousands. Of course, I got coworkers and people that auxiliary people that are affected by my decisions, but not like every day. I can wake up and not have to worry about somebody panicking, not have to worry about somebody on my staff making a mistake and we all go to jail because the feds don't play about their money. They will take you to court and send you to jail. So I live with the threat of jail all this time, making sure. As a matter of fact, I got so good at fiscal, and it's wild because I hate math, but I ain't going to jail for the Fed's money. That my new position is a consultant on fiscal. I'm a fiscal grad specialist, which is wild. But you know, the burden of that. If I make a mistake, that's millions of dollars gone from the community, and I'm glad I ain't got to worry about that now. I'm not worried about keeping the programs. I'm not worried about enrollment. I'm not worried about writing no new grants. I'm not worried about any of those things. And that is exciting for me. So now what it does is it definitely leaves a little room for me to invest more into my family and friends and myself. So I enjoy doing Reiki. So I know the job, you hear me, Wusa? I know the job allows me to be able to still have my life. And this is the first time I've had a job like that. When on the first meeting, the guy told me, and it was funny because I got a supervisor now. I ain't had one of them in a minute. She said, you know, one of the things that she had to get used to is she was like when she worked for the organization that she worked for, she had to work 60, 70 hours. I did that. When I first got into leadership, I was working 80 hours, so I know what a workaholic was. And I was laid on some therapist's couch at some point. You know what I mean? But the nonprofit sector, I don't care. It is harder than business because it can be a 24-hour job. Because once these funders got your number, please believe they're gonna call it. It don't matter if it's Saturday or Sunday, any of that. So I'm happy that I don't have that burden anymore. So I was glad to be able to figure out where um some of my happiness stems from in this moment. So now I can figure out ways to express it in healthy ways. You know what I mean? Because when you're stuck in that routine of trying to get there, you don't even understand how to enjoy the moment. So now, like, people ask me about tomorrow, I'm like, I don't even know. I'm just liking today. Yesterday was crazy. Tomorrow, I don't know, but today is good. Work-life balance, which is way more complicated than they say. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we start, Crystal, where you been? Hey, Crystal, my friend that need to move to Charlotte. So y'all tell her she living in Milwaukee where it's negative 10 degrees, probably right now. Glad you could join though, and you still need to let me read your energy too. But I'll definitely do that when you come to Charlotte. Can't wait. Um, yeah, so uh yeah, I was happy to figure out where some of my happiness stemmed from. So I can, what I mean, make sure that I show those in proper places as I get comfortable with enjoying less of a struggle. And then the people that are on my team, they told me that was the most difficult thing for them to go from 60 to 70 hours. They were like, sometimes they felt like they were stealing or cheating the job because they got downtime. And I need a balance like that so I can work on my life. Because one thing I ain't going to do anymore is put career over what I want to do for myself. You know what I mean? And I'm glad I'm not trapped in that cycle of responsibility. Although I got responsibilities and I'm trapped in that cycle. I mean, I still got responsibilities and I got to do it. But I'm not trapped in that cycle where I'm handcuffed to a position or a career path because of financial responsibilities. That's bananas. And since I was having this moment of clarity, I did Reiki on myself. So it's not like I was just sitting here. So when I did a little meditation, end of May, man, listen, let me know what you need and we'll do our best to make it happen. Um, One of the reasons I'm offering so I can explain a little bit about it, and I don't really mean to put your business out there like that, but I'm gonna put your business out there a little bit, not a lot. But one of the reasons I'm putting pressure on her and excited that she's putting out there in May is because she's in a city with no family, right? And friends can become extended family, and you can make your own family. But when you're close to your family, having them around really makes a huge difference. And I know this because I met her in class when I was in her position. I went to that city and had no family and friends. And we, like, as one of the reasons I even talked to her in the class, because she was one of the few people that treated me like I was human. When I got up there, they knew. I don't know, they knew from the smell of me, how I dressed, how I walked. I ain't even have to open my mouth. But then when I opened my mouth, they knew I was not from around there. You know what I mean? And that stands out. And then the weirdest thing, everybody was trying to make me everything but black. I got a true story, side story, before I tell you this last part. Oh my God, I probably should have did this as a story time. But I'm going to tell you this story. I remember when I was in Milwaukee, it was this, I don't know, I say he Indian, but yeah, he looked more Indian than Pakistan or anything. But this Indian dude that owned a gas station. And I used to walk up to the gas station, do my little thing. And first time I go up there, he was like, "Hey man, where you from?" And I was like, "Man, I'm from North Carolina." And he was like, "You from North Carolina?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay." So he let it go. Next time I come, this fool asked me again. He says, "Hey, where you from?" "Bro, I'm from North Carolina." He looked at me. He's like, "You from North Carolina?" I was like, "Yeah, man." He was like, "No India? No India. No Africa? No Africa. I am a good old fashioned Black American. I'm from North Carolina." And he said, "Okay." He let it go. Hey, hey man, listen, Krista, it's that BP that's, if you know what Kenilworth is, the Kenilworth Apartments, so they face this way is the BP. I can't remember that street that's up here. The one way came down, but it was the BP that set at the like the 5 points. So, and I did have a good relationship with the Israeli dude at the other gas station on the other side. I got fun stories with him too. So now, third time I go up in the store, dude asked me again. He like, "Hey, so where you from?" And now I'm like, "Bro, you got to be kidding. I'm from North Carolina." This dude got mad. I mean, he got hot as shit. He said, "Hey, you know from North Carolina?" He said, "You know black." And I was like, "What?" He said, "You know black because black people act like this." Hey, he had, on the gas station. Oh my God. And he killed us. And they acted like this in Milwaukee, and I used to be so mad. So he was like, on the counter, they'll have candy or Black and Miles and stuff like that. He say black people like this. They come, they grab the Black and Miles, and they don't have enough money. They throw the dollar and say, "Make it enough." And I'm like, damn. And then he says, they at the God's pump, "Hey, motherfucker. Turn on the gas. Hey, motherfucker. Hey, motherfucker." Right as he put the period on that sentence, some black dude was out there screaming, "Hey, motherfucker." Turn on the gas. And he said, "See? So black." And I was so distraught. I was like, "Listen, bro, we different all over the world. Don't let what you see fool you." And it is funny because I told the Israeli homeboy that I like. And only thing he said to me, he was like, "Okay." Goes to the YouTube, because I love that he always says YouTube. Goes to the YouTube, look up shit black people to say to the cashier. And if you ever seen that video, so please look it up. It's a real video on YouTube. Shit black people say to the cashier. And listen, yeah, my people, I love ya, but sometimes we be wildin'. Okay, so now, please look it up. I promise you, it's still on there. I looked probably last year to make sure it's still on there. But I don't even know if you remember that time period. It was around 2010, 2011, where they was doing all them videos about this Vine time and all that, when the Vine was jumping. But it was doing all them videos, shit white people say to the cashier. It was stuff that people say to the cashier. But this one dude did a very good video on shit black people say to the cashier. And I knew the Israeli dude told me to look at that video because he knew what the Indian dude was dealing with at his store. And yeah, he get the same thing, but the Israeli dude handled it different. I'll tell stories about him some other day. He ain't play no games. All right, so now back to the live before I wrap it up. See, hey, if I could talk about this in 2 minutes, we done. And I actually beat the 1 hour live, but I think I'm gonna last at least 12 more minutes. So now that I'm thinking about this life and how much weight is off of me and how that life of sacrifice was an unfair burden, the life of sacrifice that I chose. I remember I just told somebody the other day, life ain't fair. Sometimes you choose, sometimes it's thrust upon you. So if a woman date me, she may not have chose. She ain't choose no life of sacrifice for herself, but it was thrust upon her because unfortunately she was dating a man who had a life of sacrifice, and that was a burden. But then that also made me start to think a little bit deeper on where this feeling of tears is coming from. Although I wouldn't cry, I was like, man, I just feel like I need to cry and I don't even know how to get it out. just having a little moment with myself. And like I said, I was looping around thinking about relationships in my career, and then thinking about part of the burden that is lifted off of me because I'm not supervising all these people. I'm not responsible for, excuse me, thousands of people. I had to really start thinking about, you know, why I cried in that interview. And I know I talked about, that position or being in leadership made me be somebody I didn't want to be. And the funny thing about it is, as I thought about where the tears was coming from, I realized they were really coming from a place of guilt. And it was wild because when I think about my career and things like that, one thing that I don't really fear or feel is guilt per se. You know what I mean? And what's wild about it, I had to think about why I feel guilty. So as I was talking about how, the love doesn't balance out the sacrifice. I've had staff members. I mean, you see one of them comes on the live, trust me, they be on my page commenting. I have staff members that still fuck with me hard. I got family. I still, man, some of the people I don't watch the kids grow up. So I got families that still mess with me hard. So I was able to think about those things. You know what I mean? Focus on those. And then in making decisions for organizations, I can always think about I had to make the decision that was best for the organization. But the place that I feel guilty is about the people who lives I didn't change positively. And the thing about it is I ain't really think about them people because I was focused on the sacrifice and the positive and making good choices for the decisions and the community. I was so focused on the bigger picture, it allowed me to never even stop to think about the guilt of what I was doing to people. So in the interview, one thing I said, I never want to be in a position to terminate people, right? And it was wild because one of the reasons I never really wanted to be in that position is because I know if I fire you, I know I'm about to negatively affect your life. And I don't know when you are going to get a job again. And I never want to be that person. And I've terminated a lot of people in my life. I've terminated. Nah, I mean, it still don't balance out to the sacrifice. You know what I mean? Because there's definitely more good than bad in the field. But yeah, I remember I was with that executive director group, and they were talking about one of their difficult staff and how do they handle them. And I was like, well, shoot, let them go. And I asked them, like, how many people have you terminated? And they were like, I've been an executive director 15 years, and I've only terminated two people. Two people in 15 years? I've had years where I terminated 15 people. Your whole career, I've terminated 15 people. And I have guilt about that, or I had guilt in the sense that I needed to find where that feeling was, and I needed to be able to release it. And I don't feel guilty now. You know what I mean? Because I understood why I did it, and that's still going to be because the bigger picture is still what matters most. And if you are a person that's going to jeopardize that bigger picture, yeah, I got to get you out of there. So I don't feel bad for making the right decisions. I specifically feel bad is because I know I negatively affected those people's lives, and I never really wanted that. So a piece of that guilt was residing in me. And while I'm on this healing path and all my guards are down, it exposes a lot of feelings that I had packed down deep down inside of me. And that guilt was a major one. You know what I mean? A major one. So that also circles back into why I'm so happy right now. Because now I don't have to worry about that either. I don't, man, listen. The only thing that I get to do now is help people. Now, if they, for real, in my career and in my life, only thing I get to do now is help people. And I ain't responsible. Either you take my advice or you don't. I don't care. That's up to you. You can take my help or you don't. But I don't have to carry the burden of making sure it gets done. And I don't have to carry the burden of doing the dirty work for other people. Because I learned some of these people wouldn't even have the courage to fire the people. And I think the one place that really, really, really set that guilt in for me, and y'all may not remember, but I've been in leadership since 2012. So it's been a long goddamn time at this point. Sequestration. And this was the time I had to fire 15 to 20 people. And it wasn't their fault. And it was crazy because prior to getting in leadership, I used to always say, shoot, I'd rather be on the other side of the desk. I'd rather be the one telling you fired than the one getting told you fired. And then when I was on the other side of the desk and there was a bunch of people who really didn't do anything except work for a company that gets federal dollars. And they had to be laid off, and I laid them people off, and that bothered me for a long time because some of the people, they definitely were not able to come back to their jobs. And some of the people left the career because they had responsibilities. They were tied to that financial responsibility was breaking their back, so they left the career to make sure that, and that bothered me for a little bit. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that I can come to terms with that, and I can work those things out because I feel better and I'm able to enjoy uh, my present a little more. I don't have to be so forward thinking and so past thinking, looking at the data from the past and translating it to the future and all of those things. I'm just happy. All right, so I almost did it. It's 55 minutes, it looks like. Yeah. I told my friend tonight was gonna be. I said it before I get on there. I'm gonna ask again before I get off, since we got some viewers. If one of y'all feeling lucky and you want to talk about any of the topics tonight, you can click that link, and I might let you in. Nah, I'll definitely let you in. As long as you don't look, you gotta look crazy because I can review you first. So make sure you got your room lights on, and I don't care if your hair's done. Just make sure you got enough light we can see you. And you definitely have to be on camera because none of that creepy stuff. Um, but yeah, to recap, we talked about the idea of accept me for who I am and how that might be a unfair expectation in relationships. We also discussed this idea of patience and gentleness and how those ideas can connect to people getting into relationships with emotionally unavailable people and people who are aloof. Again, because those behaviors can sometimes look like patience and gentleness. And then we talked a little bit about how I appreciate the chaos right now. I'm loving and for organization, this organization got everything going on. I mean, they got everything. So for onboarding, of course, you can always do it better, but they got everything you need for onboard because they definitely really support work from home and stuff like that. So appreciate the chaos. And then we talked about how outside burdens and emotional and spiritual responsibilities can be hard on your mate, in the sense that remember all the weight from me being in leadership for programs and all of that, and how that was hard on the women I date, and the guilt that can come from doing the right thing. Man, listen, this work from home thing get some getting used to. One thing I do realize too, I see how people be so comfortable to sit around in their underwear all day. But I got clothes on. As a matter of fact, I ain't changed clothes. This is my work outfit. So I got clothes on. One thing that I think that helps keep you normalcy in a work from home situation, especially till I start traveling. Once I start traveling, when I'm at home, I probably will be sitting around in my robe all the time. But having a normal work routine. So for me, I got a normal work routine. Get up, work out. You know what I mean? Wash my butt, and go to work. You know what I mean? Eat me a snack, and I'm going to work. So a normal work routine. But once I start traveling, when I come home, I'll probably be walking around in my robe, eating Cheetos the whole time, and just responding to emails and making calls. Um, yeah. Oh, outside of that, Love Bug, I think they finally, because I'm in the system now and don't nobody else care, but I think they finally updated HSES, and we are no longer in the system. It can be lovely. It's funny because I actually suggested to one of my friends, they in finance, that they apply for the company that I work for, and they are coming from a work from home job. And one thing that they said is they think they would prefer hybrid. And I understood that in the sense that when it came to school, I ain't want no all remote school. I needed the routine of hybrid. And the best I could do was hybrid because I ain't want to go to school every day. So going to school some days is fine. But the thing about work from home is it can be very isolating if you don't keep that on the forefront. You be so used to being comfortable at home. Next thing you know, you on my 600-pound life with what I do with my headphones, with a headphone on to talk, to answer the phone. And yeah, I'm gonna pass on that idea. So if you get a work from home job, it is lovely. And they got a bunch of them out here now. Now's the man, get your Indeed pumping. Cause that's where it's at now. And they will inbox you. Cause I woke up one day and my inbox was full. Like, hey, you wanna take this contract? Hey, you wanna do this contract? Hey, you wanna do that? And get it jumping. But keep that in mind that it can be isolating. So you want to make sure you get out of the house and routine. All right. So let me check to make sure ain't nobody sitting in the lobby. Let's all go. Okay, maybe hold on. Let's all go to the lobby. Oh shoot. Let me check real quick. All right, so yeah, y'all want to see all that. That's the scene for when someone is actually in the lobby. Oh shoot. So I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Um, Hey, hey, listen. Cold work is hard. Cold anything is hard. Not listen. I know you be outside, girl. And let me know. Let me tell you something. What I learned: chocolate does freeze. Not only does it melt, but chocolate freezes. So, I mean, I like mine out the Frigidaire, but that, hey, man, Jesus Christ, that cold, God dog, boy, it might shatter my teeth. It break you. Again, I appreciate you joining me. I hope you found or heard something that you can resonate with, and then start to think about yourself and some of your ideas and see if they're actually fair. Because these ideas or these standards or these expectations could be the reason why you are having interesting situation in some of your relationships. But I thank you for joining me. I'll see you Thursday for book club. We almost finished with The Eyes of Watching God. I think it's like maybe 2, 3 more chapters after the tea cake done died and everything. So, that he turned to a rabid dog. She didn't have to shoot him too. But tea cake, her boyfriend didn't die. So we about to wrap it up pretty soon. And I think we're gonna do some sci-fi. Word. I'm glad. Hey, you know what? Sherry, that's why I like you. Cause sometimes you be appreciating the things I be saying. I'm like, word, I sound smart. Like you might need to tell me where you took the notes so I can make a clip out of that and put it on Instagram. I need to get the camera closer so I can start looking sexy in the pictures. Like, I just want y'all to know that has an unfair expectation. I gotta start using my sexy voice and everything. I'm out here trying to be normal. Since y'all ain't heard it in a while either. A little bit of sound for you, but I appreciate you. Um, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, and have a great week and enjoy your weekend. We out.